All right, today we're diving into the story of one of history's most influential and honestly most bizarre magical societies. And it all culminates in a wizard duel. A duel so strange it sounds like it's straight out of a novel. So let's get right into it. So picture this. It's London, the year 1900. We're inside the Isis Urania temple of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Suddenly, a magician. This guy is decked out in a kilt and a mask of the god Osiris. He breaks through the temple's magical defenses, and trust me, he is not there to make friends. He's come for vengeance. So he puts his foot on this narrow staircase, ready to go up, and bam, he's met by this shadowy figure at the top. And who is it? None other than the temple's leader, the Emperator, and his biggest rival, the famous Irish poet William Butler Yeats. I mean, the stage was absolutely set for a showdown between two magical heavyweights. A magical duel was about to kick off, but you've got to be asking, how on earth did it come to this? I mean, a poet versus an occultist on a staircase? Well, to get it, we really need to rewind and take a look at the pretty serious spiritual crisis that was gripping Victorian Britain at the time. Okay, so the stage is set for a truly unusual confrontation. We have Aleister Crowley, armed with a dagger, muttering dark incantations, and starting to climb those stairs. And his target? The very man who had kicked him out of the order, William Butler Yeats. You know, by the 1880s, that whole Victorian dream was really starting to fray at the edges. I mean, sure, there were all these amazing technological marvels, but the era also brought staggering pollution, mass poverty, and this growing feeling that, well, traditional religion just wasn't cutting it anymore. A lot of people started to feel like the modern age needed to be replaced by something more spiritual, something more magical. Right. And this climate, it was the absolute perfect incubator for something like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn to be born. One of its co-founders, a guy named Samuel MacGregor Mathers, was apparently driven by these intense visions of an apocalyptic war that he thought was just around the corner, a war that would totally remake the world. Now, let's be clear, this order wasn't about pulling rabbits out of hats or stage illusions. No, they practiced magic with a K. And what they meant by that was a really serious, scholarly pursuit, the expansion of consciousness through exploring arcane knowledge. Think of it like a magical university, really. So the way they set themselves up was a lot like the Freemasons, with all these secret initiation rituals and inner circles. But their teachings? That was this incredible mashup of all sorts of Western esoteric traditions. I'm talking alchemy, Rosicrucianism, the Kabbalah, even Christian mysticism. They pulled from everything. But here's the problem. When you have such a broad, eclectic mission, you're bound to get some friction. And that's exactly what happened. This created a really deep tension inside the order, because it turns out not everyone was on the same page about what magic was actually supposed to be for. It basically broke down into two main camps. On one side, you had the mystics. Think of guys like Yeats. They were all about pursuing spiritual enlightenment. But then you had the occultists, like the founder Mathers, and they were way more interested in using ritual magic to get, actual real-world power and influence. So, the poet W.B. Yeats, he just loved the order. He took to it immediately. For him, it totally confirmed this idea he already had, that the human imagination could tap into a spiritual dimension. And man, he shot up through the ranks super fast, becoming the Imperator, that's the leader, of the main London temple. And then, in walks Aleister Crowley. This guy was a whole other story. He was a hugely provocative and openly libertine occultist. I mean, he often told people he was aligned with the Antichrist. He also happened to be a poet, and he was, to put it mildly, deeply and pathologically jealous of Yeats's incredible talent and fame. So when the leadership in London denied Crowley a promotion to the order's second highest rank, basically saying his lifestyle was a bit too much, he was absolutely furious. He did not take it well. So what does he do? He goes straight over the heads of the London group directly to the co-founder, MacGregor Mathers, who was living in this self-imposed exile in Paris, but was still trying to pull the strings from a distance. And of course, Mathers sees a perfect opportunity here. He just goes ahead and promotes Crowley himself, teaches him a bunch of powerful secret rituals, and gives him a mission. Go back to London, raid the temple, and take it over by force from those weak mystics. Okay, so this is where it gets really wild. This is how the magical assault actually unfolded. As Crowley starts coming up the stairs, he's snarling these incantations and making the sign of the inverted pentagram. And from the top of the stairs, Yeats and his buddies are fighting back. They're throwing sigils, these magical symbols with their hands, and calling on elementals, nature spirits, to just strike Crowley down. They're casting magical wards to block him. They're unleashing this absolute blizzard of curses. They're invoking both angels and demons to try and stop him. And yet, through this whole storm of magical attacks, Crowley just keeps on climbing. It's like nothing is affecting him at all.
So with all their arcane workings having no effect, how could Yeats possibly stop him? Crowley is now within striking distance. He's got his dagger raised. All of their magic, all the counterspells, it's all failed. This is it. The final moment, everything is on the line. And Yeats, he draws on his last ounce of strength and unleashes his ultimate final attack.
So Yeats kicked him in the face. Yup, that's it. That's the climax of the Great Wizard Duel. Apparently, Yeats just decided magic wasn't getting the job done, so he used let's say, a more traditional method. He just kicked Crowley. The others jumped in too, and they sent the occultist tumbling right back down the stairs. Okay, so there is another version of the story. It's maybe a bit more plausible, but honestly, it's just as funny. In this telling, they won by calling on an even higher power, the police. The London police showed up, promptly escorted Crowley off the property, and told him, maybe don't come back. So, as you can probably imagine, the Golden Dawn's internal problems didn't just magically disappear after Crowley's failed takeover. Shocker, right? Members started drifting away, and the whole order eventually splintered into different factions. But its story, and more importantly, its influence, was a long, long way from being over. I mean, even after it basically fell apart, the Golden Dawn's ideas spread like wildfire. They became the foundation for whole new spiritual movements like Wicca and Crowley's own religion, Thelema. They totally shaped the image of ritual magic that we all see in pop culture today. And of course, they deeply, deeply enriched the mystical work of W.B. Yeats himself, pumping some of the greatest poetry in the English language full of their arcane symbolism. And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought. In a certain way, they were right. Imagination is a type of magic. Maybe the real magic of the Golden Dawn wasn't actually in their spells or their rituals. Maybe it was just in the sheer power of their collective imagination. I mean, whether you were a mystic like Yeats trying to find enlightenment or an occultist like Crowley chasing power, they all believed that the human mind could literally reshape reality. And when you think about the influence they had, well, in a way, they weren't wrong.